Welcome to Talking Comics. We got Ryan Crowe with us. I know we're going to talk about your comic here in a few minutes, but tell us about yourself. What got you into comics, your life, all that fun stuff.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and thank you for bringing me on. I'm not really anybody yet, and maybe I never will be, but...
hey, you're published through Invader, and, when Mike Perkins tells me to interview somebody, I have to interview.
So this was
no, not at all. Not at all.
It's okay. Honestly, I'll take it. I'll take it when I can get. No, I'm joking aside. What was the question? So how did I get into comics, and who am I? Who am I is one of those existential questions. I'm just a guy. I'm a guy who loves to write and create comics. I'm a comedian in my free time. In my day job, I work at a big tech company in San Francisco, and I hate talking about my job because I do it for my hobbies, not the other way around. Right. So I spend all day, wearing Patagonia vests and talking about API endpoints and a bunch of other crazy stuff. But I'm a marketer. I mean, that's what I do at my job. So anyway, I'm a comedian. I have a comedy business. I have 2 huge shows in LA and San Francisco that I produce and perform in. And I write comics, and I'm a comic collector, and that's how I see myself. I was born in Georgia, but I grew up in Missouri and St. Louis, and now I live in San Francisco.
I was wondering about the St. Louis hat being in California, but
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I growing up, I had a good time basically, but I love California, and I probably would not move back to the Midwest. And the reason is because the weather in San Francisco is like between 60 degrees and 80 degrees at all times. It's just perfect for me. But I still count the Midwest as my home. I miss the people there are the thing I miss. I think when you go to the coast, people will talk about where you're from as if it doesn't really exist. It's called coastal elitism, and they're like that about everything. And sometimes I get the joke, whatever, who cares? But then sometimes I'm like, you know what? The people there are at least nice and they show up on time. And once you get that right, then you can start talking bad about it.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm jealous of the hoodie. It's 95 and 100% humidity here, and I hate it. But
it's beautiful outside. It's like 71 degrees. But we don't even have air conditioning in this house. It's not because we can't afford it. We just don't need it.
Wow, that's yeah. No, if I didn't have AC, I want to be doing the show right now. I complain the light's on. Like, I only turn this light on when I'm recording. That is it.
Because
if I'm not recording, the lights off. Like, it puts off heat. So I refuse to have the lights on when I'm, the computer screens put off enough light for me to, work. So, and when I'm reading comics, I use a flashlight on my phone like I'm a kid. So
that's awesome. That is actually pretty awesome. You're like, okay, you're under the covers. You're like, you don't even
pretty
have to hide
much
anymore. You're an adult, but you're like,
exactly.
What? I'm going.
I have a little shelf. I have a couch on the other side of the room, and that's where my daughter sits when her and I do our show together. But she has a little shelf next to her with some like pops on it, and I just prop my phone up on there with the flashlight and read my comics.
That's the way to go.
That's hilarious.
It's funny. How did I get into comics? When I was as a kid, I was 6. I loved Superman. And when I was 6 or 7, that's when The Death of Superman was released, and I saw that in the news because the media push at the time was like sort of unprecedented for comics, and so my mom bought it for me because I was like, I need that. I need to see how Superman dies, of course.
Right.
And that was the first comic I asked for and got, and it sucked me in. I mean, I was blown away by it. I couldn't, watching Superman get beat was mind blowing, and I'm like, I didn't know that, the stories could make me feel that way. So it's probably Death of Superman that pulled me in the comics. I will say my first comic book IP, although I didn't know it was a comic book at the time. Like my favorite first character that I remember is the Ninja Turtles, because it was the late 80s, early 90s. That's when I was a kid, and so the Turtles were big for me. I didn't know the Turtles were a comic book until much later.
Much later. Like I'm reading some of those now too, and it's like, wow, these were cool. I had a couple like short novels, like probably grade school, first, second grade novels of Ninja Turtles, and then the cartoon, and it was awesome. I loved it. And of course, some action figures.
The toys were the
right.
whenever I go to my grandparents' house, they'd always have a new one, and I was just like, "What is the story here?" You'd have like a muskrat with a tennis racket embedded in its back, and ooze coming out, and you're like, "What? How did this guy?" And you're like, "Oh, they just made it for the toy." Well, again, you learn later the toys that make us, but yeah, that was it. And then it's funny though. While Superman was my first comic that I asked for, the comics that I was actually raised on, because I didn't have a comic book store near me in Missouri. So the way I learned about comics was I read Wizard magazine, and I read them front to back. And it's funny because it's like watching ESPN and telling people you watch sports, because you're not actually watching any of the games, you're just watching the highlights. And so I would read Wizard and be like, I'd get a little bit of everything. But the first comics that I read were the early Image comics. I would get big bundles from like our what was Sam's Club, which is basically a Costco big warehouse place. They would sell these like they would just sell you like 20 comics totally unrelated to each other from a publisher. And I would read Savage Dragon, I'd read Spawn, I'd read like Gen 13, what was that group called Wildcats? Those were my first comics, and I read those before I touched X-Men, before I touched Spider-Man, before I touched Batman. I was an Image kid.
You probably got some old Jimmy Robinson books in there.
I'd have to go. I don't
You'd have to
have them
go
anymore.
look.
I'd have to go look, but
Oh,
like it was all that early stuff.
I've had Jimmy on a couple times. He did the artillery book through Invader,
Oh, I
and
didn't know that actually. I did
yeah,
not know that. Yeah.
he's awesome. He's been on a couple times. I'm actually gonna release this one. I'm releasing Jimmy's on Tuesday, but I'm gonna release this one before. So people are getting bonus episodes from me this week. So I'm putting in the overtime this week.
Rock and roll. Well, thank you for the hard work. I appreciate your time.
No problem. It's just, the timing was just crazy with the FOC coming up on Monday or Tuesday. And for yours and Jimmy's and Digger, like Invader just has so much going on this week. So I'm like trying to
Hmm.
fit everybody in and get something out for them. So, because they've been good to me and sending people my way. So I really appreciate it. So,
They're good guys. I mean, Invader. I mean, they're based where I am, so I
yeah.
get to hang out with
Okay.
them at cons sometimes. Pretty cool.
Right. Jimmy's there in Oakland too. So he's not far away. You need to get him
Ah,
out of the house. So
I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna go pull him out.
go pull him
He's
out, take him to a convention. That's my goal. I'm trying to get him to Heroes Con in Charlotte next year. So
Well, I
that's my
love
goal.
Heroes. Heroes is one of my favorite conventions.
Have you been? You've gone? Did
Yeah,
you
when
go this
I
last year or this year?
not this last year.
Okay.
I went a few years ago. So like I used to be the head of marketing for Shortboxed,
Okay.
the comic app, and so we used to have booths at every big convention, and so I'd go work at those. And that was a couple of years ago, so I haven't been in a while. I miss conventions.
Right? They're so much fun. We started going this year to comic conventions for for the podcast, and of course I wrote a book which helps try to cover some of the costs when I can sell a book or two.
Yeah,
um but yeah, definitely next year we're going to try to do all 3 days, possibly get a booth, that kind of thing at Heroes. But if you do, let me know, because I'm trying to get Jimmy out here too, so
I'd
that'd be
love to come
pretty
down.
awesome. We're doing Terrificon. I'm doing to Jacksonville, Florida in July 11th, and then I'm going Terrificon in August. So we're trying to make the rounds.
Well, that'll be a good trip. I'm trying to see like what times I can get away because now that I have a book out and I'm gonna keep working, like once you see it, you're like, oh, like it took me 2 years to get this done. Um, and it didn't take me that long to write it. Like if you compress all the time, that I was just like waiting for stuff to happen. But I learned a lot about like the pace of things. Publishing my first series, and so I hope to have more than one book out when I start, going around and tabling and stuff.
Yeah, that I think that's my gonna be my next big adjustment, right? Is
Hmm.
I need to have more on the table before
Yeah.
I do a whole lot. I mean, to me, it's a marketing cost, and I'd love to get into that for a few minutes if we got time. To me, like when I go to a convention, I'm wearing the shirt, I'm handing out, these cards, giveaway cards, about the
Hmm.
podcast. Um, so it's an advertising expense for the podcast. the book's a bonus, but having a couple more books or something else to sell would definitely help at least cover the cost of the booth would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
And eat a
yeah, yeah.
chicken sandwich or something afterwards, you
Yeah,
know?
you get a little extra. That's right.
You know, my kids like to eat for some reason, like every day.
Every day, sometimes more than once. It's
Right. Like
they're
two or
crazy.
three times a day. Like, didn't I feed you yesterday? Yeah,
Wow.
it's it's wild, isn't it? No.
Yeah,
So you're a marketer by trade, is what
that's
I'm
right.
understanding. So what did you do, or whatever things are you doing? What advice would you give people marketing your books?
This is such a funny question because I would say that I am not doing a lot of marketing for my book, and it's because this is I mean, I do it all day. So like, there's the question's a good question. So I would say I'm not doing a lot of marketing for my book. I did reach out to a lot of my old influencers slash content creator friends who I worked with at Shortboxed, and I called in some favors, and they're doing that. I would say that what you should be doing is talking about your book as much as possible, talking about what's interesting about it. If you're doing good marketing, you're not only just talking about yourself, you're kind of talking about things in your ecosystem, because when you do sort of network-based marketing, where you're like, hey, not only here's my book, but also if you like for example, This Land is Old and Dark, my book, I'd be like, if you like witches, if you like horror, if you like Something's Killing the Children, if you like the brutality of something like, The Boys, you should read This Land is Old and Dark, because it will satisfy several of those itches. But in the copy there, I'm tagging those other people, making sure that they see it. I'm thinking about creators that are sort of nearby me in terms of size and sort of newness to the industry, so I get them some exposure as well. One of the things I think is true is that marketing doesn't have to be a competition between you and other books. It's a competition between you and people's attention, which is true in all of marketing. And so the way to capitalize on people's attention is to make sure you're as many places as you can be where they're also likely to be. And so they're also probably likely in the comics ecosystem. And so making sure you're tagging people so you continue to appear in those places, or you optimize for appearing in those places, is the best way, I think. Collaboration, partnership, all of those things, if you're a new creator, are going to give you the best shot at appearing better for you feeds, which are, of course, owned and governed by an algorithm. The other thing that you need to do as a marketer, especially if you're a newer comic book creator, is you have to be engaging. And I think a lot of comic creators probably know this. And I think that they're excited to engage because you're like, oh, people are talking about me for the first time ever. Let me go ahead and talk to you. But it is so important to engage. You can't just drop your thing and leave. That's not only bad sort of like community building, but it's also not going to be great for the machine signals that govern these algorithms that we're all sort of reliant on these days. I
Can you
could
go
talk
a
about this for
little bit
years.
can you go a little bit more into like the engaging part? Like you can't just post and ghost, right? I guess that's
Yeah,
I
posting
didn't make
ghosts.
that up. I'm sure I've heard that before.
It sounded
Um,
good to me. I've never heard it. I think that's original.
Oh, I like that. You can't post a ghost. All right, I'm coining that phrase. Not really.
Yeah, it's
Um,
good.
I mean, I try like I drop a reel every day, at least one. I drop, and it's usually just clips of me and my kid on the podcast, or me and a guest, or I haven't done as many about my book as I should have for sure. And I realized that the other day because I need to make more because, they stopped selling on the website, right? Like, oh, well, I'm not pushing it right now because I haven't made a clip in a while. But how do you engage with the community better? Like, what are the steps or a couple steps that we should be doing?
How do you engage the community? I think, well, one, making sure you're tagging people and being
Okay.
generous with your time, because here's what you're asking. If you think about this in a very basic way, and it's, being social and being a good engager online is really not that different than real life, except you have more you have more reach, you have more opportunity and potential for reach than you do if you're just out on the street talking to people. However, the concepts are still the same, right? If you want people to talk to you and you want people's generosity, and you want some sort of like um, you know uh, 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 compensation or something like that. I mean, it's weird to think of it that way, but all social interactions are in fact transactional. Otherwise, you wouldn't talk to people. So if, this sounds a little like I don't know. I think this probably sounds because this interaction or transactional sounds, negative, but it is true. Whenever you communicate with somebody, you want something from them, you want to give them something, and you want to receive something in return. If you tell somebody you love them, it's not, that transaction is based in goodness. I'm giving you my love, and I'm telling you about it, so and then also you're expecting like an acknowledgement of that, right? And that's the transaction you get, or you want them to feel good. So I'm talking about any fundamental communication you have is a transaction. So for marketing's sake, if you're engaging with people online, you think about the things that people appreciate and about engaging. They want to hear you talk about their book. They want to know that you've read their book, that you appreciate what they're doing, right? And you just tell them that, hey, this post was really cool. I learned a lot about your book. It's really as simple as that. All you have to do is give a signal that you care. So I think
like as a comment, like on the post, is that what you're trying to say?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. From a practical perspective, that means a comment on the post. Comments are always going to be stronger than a like, right? A comment gives more value into a system. Like for example, if you made me a sandwich and I gave you a thumbs up, like cool, I like it, and that's like you get like a small like, oh cool, he liked it. But if I also was like, AJ, this sandwich is so good. I love the way that you put the cheese on top, and I love how you separated, the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients, so the sandwich stays fresher for longer. And also, you paid attention to the fact that I needed a Dutch crunch roll instead of a French roll because that's what I like. That is so much more valuable information for you, and also for me, because the next time you make me a sandwich, you're going to know exactly how I like it, and you're going to appreciate the fact that I paid such close attention to the care you put into making something for me. So that is an example of value scaling in terms of a feedback, right? It's much better than a like, and I gave you so much more information. I probably made you feel good about yourself because I was like, thank you so much for all the effort you put into this. That is exactly the type of conceptual scaling you need to put into place when you're talking to people. And then also, and everybody knows this, but let me just like bring this analogy to its like logical conclusion. If I say, I'm going to take your sandwich, I'm going to put your recipe online so everybody else can see how smart you are, and I'm going to also credit you and thank you for it, that's sharing and commenting. Those are the values and weights you put into all the things online. Now, from a social media perspective, that's a like, that's a comment, that's a share, right? In terms of increasing importance. That's not only good for the individual interactions between you and another person, but the algorithms that see that also have weights in their formulas that give each of those actions a higher frequency goodness, if you will. Right? If you comment on something, that gives it like, oh, that's nice. I'm going to share this with a little more people. If you commented and liked something, I'm going to share it with more people. If you commented, liked, and shared, that tells the machine that's reading this stuff, this was very valuable content. And that's a little blast of marketing.
I mean, just call it now. I'm done. Like,
That's it. That's it.
I love that. No, I mean, I think that's stuff we all know, or
Yeah.
people in our space, like content. I mean, it's just weird still for me a year and a half later to say I'm a content creator, but here I am.
No.
I'm also a writer. A year and a half ago, I wasn't that either. So next up, artist. Not gonna. I don't know. I'm
I would
trying.
love to do that my own art, but everybody online is a content creator. That's it's just something you are. If you are online, you are that, unless you lurk, right? If you ever post, you're a content creator.
Right.
It's okay.
So how did you get with Invader?
Invader. My handle on Twitter and Instagram is Dr. Crowe. They released a book when they were 215 Inc. called Dr. Crowe, and I saw it because I kind of do talks and stuff for my job. I have Dr. Crowe as a Google alert, so whenever it's
Yeah.
mentioned, I can go see myself. But then I started seeing a lot of it, and I'm like, did I do something bad? and, and it turns out that this guy had Corey, I forgot his last name. Geez, I have a book somewhere around here, but Corey is a writer. I don't remember his last name, but he wrote a book called Dr. Crowe, and it started popping up, and I reached out to him on Twitter, and I'm like, the real Dr. Crowe here. I also love comics, and then I just started talking to him, and I got involved with their Kickstarter, and then I saw when 215 turned into Invader when they rebranded, and then I realized that they were in the area, and I was trying to shop around my first couple of stories, and I said, hey guys, I know you because I met you at the booth a few times talking about Dr. Crowe. and I use that as a connection. And also, again, I worked in comics, so it was short box, so I got to be around a lot of people.
That's very cool.
I mean, that's
And
it.
then, yeah, so they took your book, and here we are. Are they going to do a Kickstarter for it, or is it just going to uh comic shops for now?
There's a 3-issue series, so the issues will separately go to comics, and then when they're all out, we'll do a Kickstarter for like a big
Okay,
trade.
perfect. I think, yeah, you sent me issue 1 and 2. Is 3 not done yet?
3 is not done yet. It's
Okay.
close.
All right. Just making sure. I felt like it was a cliffhanger. I'm like, oh, okay, this better have another issue coming.
It'd be funny if I just stopped.
Yeah,
I'm
just
like,
stopped right there. It's good.
use your
It's
imagination.
good. Well, I know I did add the first one to my FOC, which is Monday or Tuesday. Today's
Oh,
Thursday.
let's
Yeah,
see.
it's Monday.
Monday.
So I'll try. I'm gonna get this out hopefully today, if not first thing in the morning.
I appreciate it.
And so go call your shops now and go get this on your FOC for your shops, and then look for the Kickstarter later. That's awesome. All right, I have some fun questions for you, and then we can go
Yes,
back
sorry
to
to.
talk some more. Well, actually, no, before that, sorry, I got sidetracked there. Tell us about the book. This Land is Old and
Hmm.
Dark. I read for issue 1 and 2. It was awesome. I love the artwork. It's gonna fit the Invader brand so well. You know, Digger was amazing. All their books that they're putting out are amazing. So I think it fits perfectly. So tell us about it. Give us the spiel.
This land is old and dark is, what happens when you reach the edge of civilization, right? And like, who does that belong to? Do do people own anything? Does the universe care about your feelings? Like these are all like big questions that I'm kind of like I think about a lot. And one of the things I've always been interested in is I'm from Missouri, right? And I grew up in like Missouri, and my grandfather's a big history buff. And he used to take me to all like the Indian reservations and Native American reservations, and we'd go see the Trail of Tears and stuff. And I was always really moved. But and then like I had a close family friend who was a member of a tribe in Oklahoma, and I went down and spent time with them. And I was always really moved by the story of the Native Americans, and felt bad for them. And one of the things I saw early in life, we would take field trips to this place called the Cahokia Mounds, which is one of the first civilizations on the North American continent. And it was right across from St. Louis. It's in Illinois, and it's these mounds that used to be, the foundations of a hill, a people that had an incredibly rich history and culture, and it was so old and ancient. And in America, as a country, we don't actually have very many things that are old, because we're only 250 years old or something, right? And I love medieval architecture, and I love old stuff. So anyway, I always thought about, and I always think about like, the sort of the audacity of like colonizing a land as big, and America's huge, right? The land of America is
Huge.
huge. And when people came over here and they started trying to settle, what they had to do in order to do that is its own brave thing, but also on the backs of others, and like the horrificness and violence of that time. And then I thought about, like, even before people were here, there was nature and stuff going on. And the violence of existence in general, it predates humankind, of course. And you can see that in sort of how animals exist. And the way that like debris is floating out in space, because something primordial, primeval exploded, and then there's just the violence of that makes up the planets. That's fascinating to me. And so anyway, I heard this. So that's those are ultimately the themes that underpin the book, right? And so bringing this idea, like, okay, well, we have reached the edge of civilization, right? When the French and Indian War ends, this is when this book takes place in 1769. You had people expanding westward, and so the British Crown at the time tried to stop people from going, because they're like, we don't need to engage with the tribes anymore. We just had a brutal war over it. Just leave them alone. Stop expanding. And that didn't stop people from going, of course, right? They wanted their own land, and that greediness, that grab, but also the sense of expedition, which is fascinating. Anyway, they reached out and they were like, we're going to tame this land, and this land will be ours. And that is the thing that like leads to civilizations existing as we know them. But that that doesn't mean anything. We're always as people, as humans, so impressed with ourselves and our creations. But someday we will be gone. You know, entropy will take us, and nature exists, and there's something that will always exist before and after us. And so this is an examination of what that might look like, really coming to terms with that on a visceral level. Really, and so that's what the book is. Those are the themes. But what the book is about is some colonists around and find out with some monsters. and
Right.
they get shown that they're what they're doing is not so safe. But then there's also something much more ominous about the end of the book, which is going to play a big factor, which I haven't seen yet. I try to each of these books is a different type of horror story, and so that's something I really wanted to try, is to write 3 different horror stories in the same book.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, the artwork's phenomenal. Where'd you find your artist?
Man, I spend most of my time that is not spent on focused on a task looking through artists on Instagram and Facebook and
Very
just
cool.
trying to figure out who I want to work with. So more times than not, I will say that the thing that actually inspires me to write is wanting to work with an artist. So I saw Abel's work somewhere. I love horror. And so I must have looked up like horror comics or something, and his something he drew popped up, and I'm like, that's my guy. That's who I have to work with. And so then I just kind of keep. I have a pretty incredible memory, and so I remember kind of like, and I have a very visual memory. So I have catalogs in my head of people that I want to work with, and then so I kind of just wait until something strikes. And so I had Abel in my head. I knew I wanted to write a horror comic. I had started trying to write a sort of kids-based comics based on my life, and it didn't keep me interested. My first my first online comic was this thing called Come Here to Rapture, and it's based off a German opera that I love, written by Richard Wagner, called Tannhauser. And I wrote that, and it exists. I still need to finish the last issue, but it exists. But anyway, I saw that. I'm like, the next thing I want to write is a horror novel. And so then I was watching this movie called Out of Darkness, which is a movie it's basically a horror movie set in a Stone Age, which is a very cool premise. But one of the characters turns around and said, "This land is old and dark," and it just sparked. I'm like, I had the whole story in my head. It just existed all at once, and I'm like, I know. And then I had Abel's when I heard it, Abel's like picture came to my for. I don't know how to explain it. It popped up, and I was like, okay, I know exactly what story I want to tell. I know who I want to tell it with. And then I just sat down and wrote, and the whole story flew out of me. That's how my creation process works.
That's really cool. And then you just
Yeah.
reached out to him and he said yes.
Yeah, I mean, with money.
Well,
Yeah, but yeah, I was like, hey man, that's some money for you to draw my book. But
right.
no,
Yeah,
he's an
that's how it
incredible
works. Yep.
artist. I mean, that's how it should work. You should pay your
Right.
artist.
No,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
It's yeah, I mean that's what I did. I mean I found an
yeah.
artist. It was the person that I had interviewed. They sent me fan art. Fan art turned into him doing the whole book, and it was amazing. And then another piece of fan art turned into another cover, and yeah, so just I love the whole process. Can't wait to do it again. It's kind of on pause at the moment because of lack of funds, but
And
when you
that'll get you.
get laid off, that's what kind of happens. Got to put your dreams on hold, I guess you'd say. But it's free to record a podcast. Well, actually, no, I pay for this service, so I'm about to say it's free to record a podcast, but
It's
it's
cheaper.
it's cheap.
Well, one thing you can do, I mean, you probably know this, but like if you're listening and you're like, well, what do I do if I don't have money? The thing that you have for you, if you're a writer, is it's free to write. And so it's free to think. And it's free to keep notes, and it's free to observe, and it's free basically to read and to consume media. All of the things that you do informs your writing, right? So like I also got laid off at some point during this process, and I just had to chill for a bit. Um, but I took that time, and I went back, and I was like, okay, well, is what I wrote good? Do I have to go back and re-examine my story? It's like there's always something to do if you
Yep,
want to.
100%. Yeah, there's no lack of time to do anything. I got lots to do. I could make 10 videos a day and interview 10 people a day. Like it's crazy how I love it. It's amazing, and
Yep.
I'm really appreciative of all the support we've gotten.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. All
And
right.
you've got kids. I don't have kids. I'm a 39-year-old man. I've got a wonderful fiance, but I only have myself to take care of basically, you know.
Yeah, I started young. I have a 20, well, she'll be 25 here in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then I'm 44. I had her at 19. Yeah, that was, so I
Mm.
went to like work immediately. And then I have a 11-year-old and she keeps me, busy and on track and which is awesome. But yeah, they keep you busy, that's for
They
sure.
sure do.
And
Yeah.
now, I'm raising my kids and now I'm raising my parents. So,
Oh yeah,
they
that's
don't talk
right.
about that part.
Yeah. Oh,
So helping them and taking them to appointments. We had 2 doctor's appointments today, and luckily the third one got canceled, so that's why I'm here today.
good. Hopefully canceled for a good reason. Yeah.
It, oh no, well, yeah, it was just
Okay.
needed to be rescheduled. Yeah, so
Okay.
it was just 3 was too many in one day. I was like, Mom's not gonna put up with that. So I have some fun questions, but before that, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about or need to talk about? And, I don't want you to leave here and be like, oh, I wish you would have told me this or asked me this or anything
Oh.
like that.
No, well, I mean, I think like for me, it's just making sure that I'm very thankful. There's nothing happens on your own ever in the world. You're always working with somebody else who's like has laid something down for you, and I think that's really important to acknowledge that. And so, I just wanted to thank Invader for like that. They were super cool to me. They gave me a shot. They didn't have to.
Right?
My artists have been so wonderful. I've got 2 covers coming from Simon Beasley, who's one of his early pieces of art is what got me into horror comics. I remember when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I had this little. He did this series of trading cards for Mars Attacks, the IP, and there was this one where one of the aliens, with the big brands, was sticking his finger through the eye of a guy, and the guy was still alive and screaming, and I was like, "Whoa, that's awesome!" And I saw that when I was 8 years old, and now I'm again, I'm 39, so 30 years later, I get to work with Simon Beasley. I mean, and he agreed to do it. That's incredible for me. Um, William Kaluta is one of my favorite artists, and he's doing a cover, and he's old. Like he doesn't have to do anything anymore, but he's like, yeah, I'll do a cover for your book. So I'm really grateful for that. My letterers and the people that are around you, you got to give them praise early and often. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure their names are said. They deserve it, and like we all help each other. And so like Brian Middleton is my letterer for issue 1, and I'm working with Micah Myers, who's my letterer for issue 2. Abel is an incredible artist. I worked with a guy named Andy Sawyers for like this incredible heavy metal inspired cover. Azoanabi is that's his name. On Instagram did the incentive cover for this. I'm just grateful for all the people I worked with, and Scott Snyder, who helped me with the story, like look at the story and tell me the beats were good, and he encouraged me saying, you're doing a good job, because I don't know how to assess my own
Right?
work. And if Scott Snyder
100%.
says it, he didn't have to say that either. So those are
100%.
all people I'm grateful.
Yeah, I'm grateful, yeah, for everybody that helped me and read my story beforehand and even after I still get feedback. A friend of mine gave me feedback the other day. He's like, you should have added this. I'm like, you're right, but
Yeah,
next time I
cool.
will.
Yeah.
So I should have had you read it before I published it, but whatever.
Yep.
That's the way it goes. All right, cool. Well, you already answered this, I think. No, not this one, but maybe the next one. Do you remember your first favorite superhero? Was it
Superman.
Superman? Okay. That's what I thought. And then the first comic book you ever read was Death of Superman?
Yeah, Death of Superman. And then after that, I will say it was Spawn. So Spawn
Okay.
was so Superman. It's funny. I would say that my first chosen favorite superhero was Spawn, because
Okay.
Superman is kind of impressed upon you. I love Superman, and he is my
That's
favorite.
true.
But Spawn is like the first one where I went out and found one that I liked.
That's a great point. Because like
Yeah.
Batman and Superman, like you're imprinted with those if you're any kind of like nerd growing up.
If
So
you watch TV and you liked cartoons and you were not to be too like stereotypical about this, but if you were a boy of a certain age.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. And then I grew up and now I like Thor, as you can tell, all this Thor stuff.
I
I
love Thor
like
too.
Batman too, but all right. Do you have a favorite current series? Do you read anything currently?
Yeah, I read a lot. What do I love right now? I mean, I just talked about. I mean, I love the Absolute Universe. Batman is it's so good. I'm digging that. The Martian Manhunter series is like revelatory for me. What else am I reading? I'm reading a lot. Um, Assorted Crisis Events is pretty good. Bug Wars is on my list. It's I've got to start reading that. What else do I just I'm reading a bunch of old stuff. I really like. I'm reading this book called Starstruck, which is a sci-fi anthology. I'm reading Cobra, which is a cool like anime book. Very very awesome art. If you can find Cobra, it was released. It's released by Viz, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s. It's called Cobra. It's excellent. Um, this is too hard of a question to answer. I just started reading the new Dead Man book, which is really good. Yeah, I'm reading a lot of stuff.
Well, that's good. Sometimes people are like, no, don't read anything new. I'm
Sure.
like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Cool. All right.
I mean, 2 years ago, I wasn't reading comics. Like,
Yeah.
it was
Sometimes you
10
take a break.
years since I picked up a comic. You have another kid, and it's like, oh, well, this has got to go away for a while. And then the little kid gets into it, and it's like, oh, cool, I can bring this back.
I didn't read comics all throughout probably college and grad school. I mean, I took a break. I took a long
Oh,
break.
yeah. I read some as a kid, and then when my oldest daughter, I had a game store, so I ran a hobby
Cool.
shop, card game shop, for a while, for about 7 years, and I had a comic rack. I didn't do like the whole comic. I didn't have like walls of comics, just a comic rack. Had a few titles. Read that was the time when the Jason Aaron Thor run was going on. During when the movies were coming out, right? And her and I used to read those and loved them.
Yeah, those are cool.
And kind of put them away. Like I said, I had another kid, kind of put all that stuff away, sold the store, and then my daughter, my youngest one, discovered comic books one day because we were hanging out in a game store that had a comic rack. And she's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's comics." And she just went off the deep end, which I love, and now she has just as many boxes over there as I have over here. It's crazy.
Mhm.
So, and she loves writing, she loves drawing. She's written a couple zines.
Cool.
And does the artwork for him, and like she's showing me up. So I've been trying. That's my goal. Is I'm dabbling with art, and I'm gonna create my own zine here, hopefully before the end of the year. So we'll see.
Zines are very cool. I mean, that zine
Right?
is like very hip. They're coming back in San Francisco. They're big. Yeah, they're
Okay.
great.
Awesome. Yeah, you have to make a zine, couple zines.
I thought about it. Let's think about it.
Well, so you do what I'm doing. Like you said, you wanted to try to get into art, right? And that's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to do. It's not going to be good, but it's going to be
it's
okay.
okay. Yeah.
All right. If you could live in any comic book universe, which one would you choose?
Oh my god. That's
I'm not living in yours. I'm sorry. I'm
no,
good.
that's terrifying. I wouldn't live in mine either. I don't know. That's a really difficult question. Like me as
Right?
me.
Yeah, you're you.
So I would say if there is a universe where I could acquire powers somehow without it like hurting me too much, I think that'd
Well,
be
that's
pretty
the next
rad.
question. So you could be like, what's your favorite or what do you want your superpower to be? So combine them.
Yeah.
And then
Okay. All
the
right.
next question after that is who would you want as your sidekick? So if you want to combine all three of those, and it could be any
Oh,
character. So
okay.
universe with a power and a sidekick. I
That's
like
such a
this.
good
I'm
question.
combining these three. I'm going to combine this from now on.
So the universe I would want to live in. What? I mean, I would love. The problem is when you think about like how what a universe looks like. Like I would love to meet Superman, but I also wouldn't want to live in that. You
Right?
know. Um. That's a difficult question. I would not really want to live in any comic universe where I could get snapped. That's that's just hard to. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I'm just like I'm looking at all my comics. I'm like,
Yeah.
where would I
Where
go?
would you go?
I
I've
think
had some
maybe.
cool answers. Go ahead. Oh, you got one. Go ahead.
Oh, I think maybe I would dig the Star Wars universe. It's just
That's
interesting, you know.
right.
You could live anywhere basically, and if you didn't want to engage with the danger, you wouldn't have to, but you would still have access to like the future, and the Force would exist. That's very cool, you know. Those are all like that. That'd be pretty interesting to me. Uh, and then if I had to, yeah. So it's okay. That would be my answer. I would have a R2, who I love. R2 is one of my favorite characters. So I would have a droid pal. I think that'd be pretty killer. Or I don't know, Chewy, like a Chewy, like a cool like uh I don't know. I kind of just want to be Luke Skywalker.
Hey,
I think that's it. I mean, I don't even. The funny thing is, like, I don't read Star Wars comics. But I think if I had to choose, that would be it. I think that's it. I would have. So I think Chewie would be fun, like an alien that I could understand. And he's cool as hell. We'd go on adventures together. We'd have a spaceship. That's cool as hell.
right? Everybody had spaceships. Like, it's crazy.
Actually, okay. So here's the answer. I would live in the Star Trek universe, because I think that living within the Federation is actually a little bit more chill,
Than the
and going
Empire.
in the Empire, like in sort of that area. So I think that's the answer. It would be Star Trek. Um, that's the answer. And my
All
buddy
right.
would still be an alien, just but like one with only facial stuff. Or I would have like a Spock. That'd be cool. And my superpower, I don't think I would need one. I would just want to be a good fighter.
There you go. That's perfect. See, I'm combining this from now on. These three
That's a good
questions.
one.
I like that. Combining them makes it even funner. All right, this is my favorite question. If your life were a comic book, what would the title be? Deep
Oh,
questions
that's an
here.
interesting. Well, that's funny because there's a comic book, like I said, called Doctor Crowe. Uh,
Right? Yeah, you already have
it
that.
already
Published by
exists.
Invader.
Uh, I think it would be okay. So like if my actual life was a comic book, let's think about what I've done in my life. I think it would be I think it would be called Failing Upwards.
Like
Yeah.
that.
I think I've gotten to a pretty good place in my life from a pretty hard beginning, and I don't think I think I think I did it by accident. So like I happened to do it. So I think that's kind of a funny one, Failing Upwards.
That's awesome. I know we touched on it earlier and we got into the whole marketing, rabbit hole there, which was awesome. I eat that kind of stuff up.
Mhm.
But if I haven't asked this in a while and I don't know why. I need to go back to it. Is what like advice would you give fellow comic creators, that are you're in my position, something maybe you wish you knew beforehand before you started or.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty new to be giving advice, but I will tell people that were in my position or at least similar positions. Something that I think is not really said, or maybe nobody told me this, but I don't think maybe it has been said. I don't really know. I think that what you'll hear sometimes is you just got to do it. Um, and I think that having the bravery and having the courage to see something done, and having the resilience to stick with something and to not think of things as failures but learning examples, like this is all like very like I think very cliche, like rah 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 stuff. But I will say that stuff works.
Right.
If you just
It's not only comic books, it's everything in life,
everything.
doing those things, right?
Yes,
As your other fellow Invader creator, Kate Windles, told me, shut up and do it, you
that's right.
know?
I do think that. I
I
think
was in
sit
the
down
middle.
and write
I
it.
had her on when I was in the middle of like we were like halfway done with the book and she's like, just shut up. You got it done. You're getting it done. You're gonna have a book coming out. So it's like, okay.
I, I think there's an attitude that I have. I've got a pretty big chip on my shoulder. I don't like being told when I can and can't do stuff. I've got an anti-authoritarian streak or anti-authority streak. Definitely anti-authoritarians, but also anti-authority. Um, no, you don't have to wait for anybody's permission. You just go. Take anything you can do and just go. You don't have to wait. If you want to make a comic and you want to get started right now, there's a piece of paper near you and there's something you can write with. Start figuring out a two-panel story that you'd want to tell, or a three-panel story. Write it, draw it out, draft it, see if you can turn those squiggly shapes into slightly better shapes, make it 5% better, and then do it again, make it 5% better, then and 5% better and 5% better, and you will find the joy in creation is going to be as useful as actually accomplishing something. That doesn't mean you should stop there, accomplish something, but you can do it right now if you want to, you can. start with small goals. I think that's something that people don't think about a lot. Break something down into little tasks. So start from the back. You want to publish a comic book? Cool. What do you need to do first? Come up with a story. Okay, well, come up with a story. What does that mean? Think of something that is interesting to you. Okay, what do you think is interesting, right? So all of a sudden you're breaking these down into little smaller and smaller milestones, and then you can start building back up to where you want to be.
Perfect.
Everything is in your head. You have it all here. If you can understand me talking and you can open up a computer and you can click a link to watch a podcast, you are well within your abilities to write something down that you'd want to see. You can tell a boring story. That's another thing that's interesting. People are like, well, I don't know what story to tell. Well, talk about how you went to the grocery store. Did you leave the house today? Did you forget your shoes? Oh man! And then you had to sit down. You got pissed off about your shoes. But now you've got a couple panels, right? You're sitting down. You're mad at yourself. You slam your head's on the door because you're like I gotta have shoes on, you idiot. And then you all of a sudden you got a little funny story going on. And then you finally got to the grocery store, right? You got your dumb little shoes on, and you thought you accomplished something. Now you got to pick the type of milk you want. There's 70 flavors of milk there. Now you have to pick which one you can afford, which one's going to last long. Now you got a whole story. Everything matters.
Everything's right there.
It's right there for you.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's great advice. That's, you said it a minute ago about, start with squiggly lines and make them 5% better. Well, I felt that one a little too deep, that knife
Yep.
a little too deep because, I'm sitting there staring at my sketchbook down on the floor because that's where it's sat for a few days because I haven't, practiced drawing in a couple days. So got to pick up the sketchbook.
That's right. Look, there's something that is very, 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 when you first start something, you're going to suck at it, and you got to embrace that suck. Embrace the suck. I think that's what you got to do,
Yep. I've heard that before. Embrace the suck. Well, this is awesome, man. Go to your comic shop, call your comic shop, ask for This Land is Old and Dark, or go to League of Comic Geek because it's on there. That's all I did. It took me 2 seconds to click a button to say I want it, and my store will order it. So if you're not using League, use League. It's so easy to now. I love that app for like $2-3 a month. It's amazing. But go add that to your pull list. Do you know when it's coming out?
It's coming out in August. Around
okay.
The end of August, I think.
Okay, no worries. So end of August. And maybe when this comes out or when the last one comes out, come back on. I do this cool thing where if somebody's been on the show before, I let them come on the show with me and my daughter. We record on Thursday evenings, and usually Thursday evenings. And let them come back on, do a pop-in, hang out for a few minutes, play some silly game that my daughter and I play. We do like this or that or trivia stuff. And, so pop in. And so, next time, when we're wrapping up or the Kickstarter, that's a good one. When the Kickstarter launches, let's do it for that. So we'll stay in touch online and, we'll get that going. But thanks for being here. Hope we got this covered. And, thanks for being here.
I really appreciate it. It's been super fun to talk, and this is my first interview for this book, so it's a big deal for me.
Really? Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be the first. That's an honor. So
it's an honor for me. Honor.
Oh, well, no problem, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to Talking Comics Podcast, powered by Aquadio Media, helping creators make waves.